country, it doesn't matter how many of them feel strongly about an issue, they're only going to get a 0.3% opportunity to move the needle on policy. What would you say to stave off despair?
What we've done is help people see how bad things are, and the next thing to do is to fix them. I firmly believe that Americans are capable of doing that, and it's going to take a big movement of people working hard. It's going to take both Republicans and Democrats.
And rich people.
And rich people, as well as poor people. But if poor people get really organized, they can give a bit of a scare to the rich people, and that's all to the good.
Benjamin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Benjamin Page is a political science professor at Northwestern and co-author with Martin Gillens of the study Testing Theories of American Politics, Elites, Interest Groups, and Average Citizens, published in the journal Perspectives on Politics in 2014.
So far, the bulk of the momentum, such as it is, around gun control has come after high-profile mass shootings like Sandy Hook. We heard it from the president in his address this week.
Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad. And by the way, it happens on the streets of Chicago every day.
He's used that line about Chicago before, but though it was only one line in a lengthy address, it is black men who make up the largest share of shooting homicides every year. In 2012, for example, 90 people died in shootings like Aurora and Sandy Hook. That year, according to ProPublica, nearly 6,000 black men were killed.
That's why community leaders like Reverend Michael McBride have trekked to the White House urging support for existing gang intervention programs with solid track records and without political baggage. But time after time, McBride finds that he and his colleagues are unable to get traction or investment to build on their success. McBride is a pastor based in Berkeley, California, who champions one program in particular called Ceasefire. We learned about it in a ProPublica New Republic piece this fall. Ceasefire relies on partnerships among community groups and law enforcement, and it works because they only need to intervene in the lives of a very few to save the lives of many.
Less than half of 1% of a given community is responsible for over 60% of gun violence. And we find that when you intervene with these young men, over time, they actually choose to stop shooting without any extra force or pressure because many of them want to live. They just have not had anyone, whether it is community members, law enforcement, or others, really give them a constructive way to make those kind of decisions.
Now, the program has basically two elements. One is a really tough no-tolerance policy. Lots of warrants if someone has a gun, long sentences for chronic offenders, aggressive enforcement of probation restrictions, and even calling in the feds.
We call it a carrot and a stick approach, right? We want the stick to definitely be a deterrent to those that are caught in these cycles of violence. The carrot would be offering jobs, mentors, offering services, offering them even relocation as we call them into conversations and say, we love you, we don't want to see you die or end up in jail, but this gun violence must stop.
So tell me how well it's worked.
In cities like Oakland, Stockton, California, Richmond, California, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Camden, New Jersey, High Point, North Carolina, Boston, parts of Baltimore, we can average between 15 to 20, some places as high as 30 and 40% reductions of gun-related homicides within 18 months. Now, to put that in context, if a police department or a city has a 4 to 5% reduction in homicide, it is considered a great year of success. The Department of Justice lists this as one of its highest rated interventions, so I believe it should be advocated for right alongside every background check intervention, every assault weapons ban.
In his speech this week, the president singled out the gun lobby as the primary hurdle to reforms that could tackle gun violence. But ceasefire is an approach that doesn't require passing new gun laws. It doesn't involve a battle with the NRA, and yet it has struggled to gain any meaningful political traction. Why isn't this approach being embraced by politicians?
The challenge we have, I believe, are the lives of black young men who are commonly referred to as thugs, criminals, predators, are their lives really worth saving through investments that go beyond police and jails? Have we made that argument yet in the national consciousness? And I would say no. The president is very much responding to a political reality that we see playing out every day in cities all across the country. Mayors, police chiefs, city council members, governors. It's a hard sell to say that we're going to move several $1 million away from one type of law enforcement or carceral strategy to something that would actually expect these young men to make life-saving decisions.
Harvard researcher Thomas Abt told ProPublica that ceasefire, quote, has no natural constituency. To vastly oversimplify, progressives want more prevention and conservatives want more enforcement. Focused deterrence challenges the orthodoxy on both sides. It makes everybody uncomfortable. Do you agree with that?
His analysis is correct, but just even the use of no natural constituency in everyone definitely privileges the middle class, affluent, white constituency over and against those who live in these communities every day. And that is, again, part and parcel of the problem.
Because, as you've suggested, the policy wonks on this issue are often white middle-class individuals, and so the strategies are directed kind of towards the suburbs.
Absolutely, but we have to continue to figure out how do we widen the circle of concern so the constituencies are not invisible to those who are actually making the kinds of political decisions at the local, state, and federal level.